Upon entering the military, every service member takes a solemn oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. The nation, at the same time, pledges to provide them with certain rights and benefits if they should be injured or become sick due to their military service. We have painfully seen ever since the Vietnam War that too often our nation falls tragically short on this pledge. Since 1981, the National Veterans Legal Services Program, NVLSP, has worked to ensure that the government delivers to our nation's 22 million veterans, service members, and their families the benefits to which they are entitled because of disabilities resulting from their military service to our country. NVLSP recently won a major victory that will force the Department of Veterans Affairs to reimburse tens of thousands of veterans for emergency medical expenses incurred at non-VA facilities that are not covered by the veterans' private health insurance. In April 2022, NVLSP filed a petition in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit with the assistance of pro bono counsel Sidley Austin that challenged the VA's reimbursement regulation on behalf of 2 veterans. Although that regulation required VA to reimburse veterans without insurance for 100% of their emergency medical expenses, it prohibited VA from paying any money to veterans with private health insurance that covered part but not all of their emergency medical expenses. In October 2022, the Federal Circuit agreed with NVLSP's position that VA's regulation violates the reimbursement statute, which requires VA to reimburse insured veterans for their liability for coinsurance, paving the way for veterans to recoup millions of dollars in medical expenses they were forced to lay out in an emergency. It was an admirable sense of duty and service that spurred 17-and-a-half-year-old Christopher Gunn to volunteer for the military as he was exiting high school in 1975. Gunn's father, a Philippine national, fought for the United States during World War II. Gunn saw his enlistment as a way to honor both his father and the United States. From an early age, Gunn told himself,
"Whenever I get a chance, I will serve the military to pay back the U.S."
Gunn served 30 years, rising to the rank of Sergeant Major. Those 3 decades in uniform caused Gunn to develop a series of traumatic stress conditions. Gunn sought assistance for his conditions through NVLSP's Lawyers Serving Warriors Pro Bono program.
Sergeant Major Gunn had not previously applied for combat-related special compensation. We combed through his medical records and we identified those disabilities and linked them to certain combat events, and were able to make the case that those disabilities stemmed from Sergeant Major Gunn's combat service.
Gunn received the benefits he deserved and became an advocate for NVLSP, encouraging other veterans to seek NVLSP's help.
SP is action with attitude. Why? Because NVLSP deliver.
NVLSP has been at the forefront of efforts to advocate for veterans who have suffered from toxic exposure. NVLSP continued in this tradition by establishing its Burn Pits Claims Assistance Program in October 2021. NVLSP staff attorney Ryan Kelly worked closely on these cases.
Burn pits were just these giant, essentially pits of trash that were present pretty much any area you can imagine U.S. service members being deployed to, where they just threw anything and everything in these giant pits, lit it with jet fuel, and burned it. And obviously when you're working in close quarters with these giant burning pits of trash, that can lead to a lot of health issues. So veterans came home with not just respiratory issues, but higher rates of cancers, higher rates of all sorts of conditions.
Lee Cousins is one such veteran. Cousins joined the Army in 2007. Upon leaving the Army in 2012, he became a police officer and began to build his post-military life. In 2021, after experiencing back pain that he thought was a kidney stone, Cousins went for medical tests.
So I went down to our local imaging center, got a CAT scan, and about an hour after I got the CAT scan, the imaging center called me back and said, no, hey, you don't have a kidney stone. I have a large mass on my left kidney, and I need to go to the emergency room immediately. So at which point in time, I went to our local trauma center and had more imaging done and more tests done, at which point in time they determined that I had stage 4 renal cell carcinoma, which is stage 4 kidney cancer.
The devastating news of the cancer diagnosis was made even worse by the enormity of the financial cost of treatment.
The financial impact is huge. I am on oral chemo medications twice a day, every day, and those run roughly about $50,000 a month, as well as on top of all the other medications I'm taking to counteract the side effects from that chemo medication. Combined with every 3 weeks, I do intravenous immunotherapies that I go to, which run about $20,000 every treatment for this specific medication I'm on. And that changes with the medication. And on my first rounds of treatment for my intravenous medications, it was just over $100,000 of treatment. So the financial impact is huge. The cost of cancer treatment in general is extremely expensive. And that's a cost that you just can't plan for.
I think mostly about our girls. They're 5 and 7. We probably would have had to use their college funds and our retirement funds to cover treatment and scans and medications and travel. It's terrifying. I mean, it's not something, he was 37 when he was diagnosed. I don't know that anyone can ever prepare, but at 37, a stage 4 metastatic cancer diagnosis isn't something that is anywhere in your realm of imagination. Without NVLSP, it's hard to even imagine what our life would look like right now.
Thankfully, Cousins has been able to receive his chemotherapy treatments.
These claims are difficult to prove. They are often cases that arise years after the fact, and NVLSP has for decades been at the forefront of keeping the VA accountable and making sure that the veterans who have been exposed to toxic substances get the full extent of the benefits they have earned and they are owed. And we've been working on this for decades in Vietnam-era generation cases involving our Niemer class action cases. We've been involved in helping make sure that the PACT Act was passed, that it was as robust as it ended up being. And of course, through our Burn Pit Claims Assistance Program, we're here to ensure that the PACT Act actually does what Congress and we as a society have promised that it will do. We are making sure that no one gets left behind, no one gets lost in the cracks of the bureaucracy at the VA. We're here to make sure that it actually gets implemented and that every veteran who has a claim gets what they are entitled to.
NVLSP's foundation was built on the efforts to right the wrongs of bad paper discharges.
A bad paper discharge refers to a discharge that is not fully honorable. It really impacts their life as a civilian. It can impact employment opportunities, educational opportunities, access to specific benefits that are eligible to most veterans that might not be eligible to some people with bad paper discharges.
Frank Ciardelli carried that burden for decades. He volunteered for the Marine Corps straight out of high school in 1967 at the height of the Vietnam War. Within just a short time of enlisting, the teenager found himself flying helicopter missions on the front lines of Vietnam.
On the 1st of May, I went for a check flight, and the check flight started out I didn't expect it. We flew into an LZ, and we were under fire. I mean, it was, we were picking up bodies. That was the first mission I ever flew, picking up dead Marines.
Unfortunately, this was just one of the traumatic experiences Ciardelli would endure during his service.
Vietnam took its toll on him like it did so many others. And He saw a lot of his friends get killed. One of the people that he mentions often is a high school friend of his who got shot. He saw a lot of people die. A lot of men died in his arms as he was trying to evacuate them. He just saw a lot of trauma and a lot of combat. And as a result, he had a lot of survivor's guilt and a huge amount of PTSD, nightmares and flashbacks dealing with all of that, and kind of never really felt safe or whole after that experience. Unfortunately, like so many others, the way that he coped with this was drugs.
Even though he had a stellar service record, Ciaudelli's substance abuse and clashes with his military superiors led to an undesirable discharge from the Marines in 1972. That so-called bad paper was a yoke around his neck for decades as he got sober, earned a college degree, and built a family. As a result of NVLSP's advocacy and the advocacy of both of his lawyers serving Warriors volunteer attorneys, Ciaudelli's bad paper has been erased and his discharge upgraded to honorable.
We really wanted to file a petition to get his discharge upgraded from less than honorable so that he could benefit from all those things that he had really earned over the years through his service and through his dedication. So what NVLSP did was they got me together with my corporate partner, and we were able to go through the files. They helped us figure out the process. They gave phenomenal training. They were there to answer our questions, and then they just let us roll our sleeves up and get to work, working directly with Frank, asking them questions when we needed it, and being able to get the petition put together with all of the supporting documentation, submit it, help shepherd it through the process of being vetted until we finally were successful in getting Frank what he absolutely deserved.
For Ciaudelli, it has been a nearly 50-year journey for a 1-mile trek to his hometown's Veterans Day Parade.
It's not even a mile, it's about a mile from where I live. My wife and I have gone to it, but I've always stayed in the background. And I've always had, when we've left there, I've said to my wife, and I feel guilty just going there because I don't feel like I belong. And this year, I'm going to go there with a lot of pride because NVLSP gave me this.